Hi folks, and welcome to week 10 of class. I'm sorry for the delay in getting this PowerPoint up here, but I wanted to make sure that I had all the information for you in it. And I also have some good news, which is that you do not need to download or purchase SPSS to do the statistics portion of our course. I actually found an online open source free version to do statistics in, and I'm going to be telling you about that next week. For this week, we're not going to be calculating any statistics. We're just going to be discussing the concepts, and you're going to pick out some variables. So just to really quickly go over some basic terms that you need to know first in order to do statistics. Some of you may have already done some statistics. You may have taken 370 or the methodology class. But statistics are mathematical techniques that we use to organize and manipulate data. So we can look at the relationships between variables and look at how significant those relationships are. We can look at just comparing two variables together and seeing the effect that one might have on another. So variables are traits that can change values from case to case. So case to case means whoever is being studied, right? Usually people, but sometimes, I don't know, you can look at statistics and the case could be a country, right? You can look at statistics by country. Or if you're going to do a study of the New York City subway system, right? You might want to look at the variables for each subway station, right? So then in that case, the subway station becomes the case. But in most of statistics, and certainly in the data set that we'll be looking at, the cases are individual people. So we look at how the independent variables, the causes, in quotations, because we're not really looking at causation, we're looking more at correlation, the causes or existing conditions, something that is already existing, and how that might affect the dependent variable. So the levels of measurement is what we're going to focus on this week. And so those are the characteristics of a variable that can affect the statistical methods that you may use. And it gives us some ideas about what the different variables can tell us. So a nominal level variable is not numerical, and the categories or the different possible answers, right, are exclusive and exhaustive. So if you think of statistics as the actual questions that get asked on a survey, right? And then they become statistics, they become data. So if on a survey there's a question about your race, right? Well, it's not numerical, it cannot be ranked in any way, right? So there's just independent categories: black, white, Latino, Asian, mixed race, etc. Or for example, if it's asking you what your religion is, right? We don't consider one religion to be better than another. So there's no way of ranking them. So these are all just discrete sort of possibilities that are exclusive, exhausted, but not numerical in any way. When it comes to the ordinal level of measurement, those scores can be ranked. They can be ranked from high to low or more or less. So for example, socioeconomic status, we know that some people are working class or poor, some people are middle class, some people are upper class, and we can put some kind of ranking there in terms of how much resources they have. You could also do it by degree of school, right? So we can rank it. High school, we know, means you have less education than somebody who has an associate's degree, who then has a bachelor's degree, right? And these rankings don't mean that one thing is good or bad, right? I mean, kind of the joke that I always use here is, you know, I have a PhD, so I have a very high level of education. But somebody who has a bachelor's degree, like my husband in math, right, he's making a lot more money than I do. So it doesn't mean that, you know, having a certain level of education is necessarily better, it's going to yield better results or anything like that. It's just that we can rank these things in some way. We can rank them from high to low. We can rank them from more to less in some way. There's not necessarily value associated with that, but they can be ranked. And then when it comes to interval ratio, these are scores that can be ranked, and the distance between the categories can be defined. So often with ordinal level variables, right, there's no defined distance between working class and middle class. There's no necessarily, having a high school diploma is not exactly the same as exactly the same amount of having an associate's as an associate's is from having a bachelor's. There's no way to tell what's in between those categories. Whereas here, that distance can be defined, and there are equal intervals between the categories. So for example, age, we know that there's 365 days in a year, right? So somebody who's 1, somebody who's 2, somebody who's 3, they all have the same interval in between them, which is a full calendar year. The number of children somebody has, right? So if you have 1 kid, if you have 2 kids, if you have 3 kids, you can't have a half a kid or a quarter of a kid, right? We know that the difference between having 1 kid and 2 kids is the same as the distance between having 2 kids and 3 kids. Certainly not in terms of the stress that they may put on you, or the experience of having 3 kids might feel like more than 2, right? But we know that it's a number of people. It's an exact interval. Same thing with income, right? Income is based on dollars. So if you're asking for exact level of income, $15,000 we know is different from $15,001, $15,002. Those intervals are exactly the same. Now, sometimes you see income written as a range. Then it's ordinal level, because then if we're saying from 15,000 to 60,000 or 61,000 to 70,000, those intervals aren't equal, right? But they can be ranked still, but they're not equal. So this is when the intervals are equal between the categories. So just to review it, you might want to pause this for a second and write down what you think each level these are: zip code, marital status, number of siblings, birth order, and attitude or opinion. Okay, so give yourself a second to kind of guess or think about which ones you think those are. So for zip code, it involves numbers, so we often think it's ordinal or interval ratio, but zip code is actually nominal level. It's the same thing as kind of saying what neighborhood you live in, right? There's no way to rank them. You might think that some neighborhoods or some zip codes are better than others for different reasons. It might have a better education system. It might be closer to a subway, right? But there is not actually a way to rank these, and they're discrete, exclusive, exhaustive categories, so it makes them nominal level. What about marital status? Being married, being single, being divorced. That is another example of a nominal category, right? Number of siblings. That would be interval ratio. It's the same thing as number of children, right? We're talking about number of people, so there's no way to have half or a quarter. There's no way to have unequal intervals between the numbers. What about birth order, though, right? So you might have 5 siblings, but what about where you are in the birth order? Are you the youngest? Are you the second? Are you the third? Are you the oldest? That would be ordinal level. You can rank that in some order. Somebody's attitude or opinion about something, right? Like if there's a survey question that says, on a scale of 1 to 4, how do you feel about the MTA currently, right? How the trains are running. And 1 could be, I'm really angry about how the trains are running. Number 2 could be, I'm a little angry. Number 3 could be, I'm pretty happy with it. Number 4 could be, I'm ecstatic with the MTA, right? So those opinions can be ranked. They can be put into some order. You're more or less happy with the service that you're getting. Okay, so hopefully that's all clear. We're going to actually get into the statistics next week. But for this week, what I want you to do, you should first of all still be working on your posters. Those are coming up due on the 19th. And in next week's video, I'll give you a little bit more detail about how to submit them. But you should definitely be working on them now, right? Because next week we're going to be delving a little bit more into statistics. So you'll want to have your poster mostly done already. But for this week, what you do need to submit is 6 variables that you want to use. Now, these don't need to be related to your final topic for the class. This assignment, unlike the infographics and unlike the poster, it might not relate to your final paper, and that's okay. But what you want to do is you want to find 6 variables, 2 at the nominal level, 2 at the ordinal level, and 2 at the interval ratio level. So you're going to be looking for these statistics in the code book, which I'll show you in a minute, and then you will just upload a Word document with those 6 variables listed in it, and that's your assignment for the week. So what we're looking at here is the General Social Survey from 2016, so pretty recent. The General Social Survey is this says quality data on religion. This is not just a religious, this website is a religious data website, but the General Social Survey asks lots of questions about lots and lots of topics. It's not just about religion. And so what you will do here is you'll look through this code book and you'll find 6 variables that you're interested in using. Now this is a really huge survey. Basically what they do is they call Americans, and anyone in the US can get a call from them, and they ask them different questions on opinions, household composition. There are 800 and something potential questions, right? But each person only gets asked about maybe 15 or 20. They surveyed 2,867 people in total for 2016. Okay, and so what you'll be doing right now is all you need to really focus on for now is the questions, okay? So, for example, let's see. If retired in school, keeping house, or other, did you ever work for as long as 1 year? So this is a question about if you've worked for 1 year ever in your life. And the possible answers are not applicable, yes, no, or no answer, okay? So what level variable do you think this is? It's nominal, okay? So you can kind of tell by the different answers to the questions what level the variable is at. Here's that marital status question, right? Are you married, widowed, divorced? Let's see. So this is if you have a job but you're not at work, how many hours a week does he or she work? So this is coming off of a previous question about how many hours your spouse works. So this is an interval ratio level question. These are the different answers that people gave, the specific numbers. So we know that the difference between 30 hours and 32 hours is 2 hours, and that's always going to be the same. So that's interval ratio. Let's just see if we can find a quick ordinal level just to give you an example. Okay, so here's an example. So this one is asking, do you agree, strongly agree, somewhat disagree, etc., with the following statement? Irish, Italians, Jewish, and many other minorities overcame prejudice and worked their way up. Blacks should do the same without special favors. Yeah, this survey gets into some real topics in American society. But anyway, it is at an ordinal level. You can agree strongly, agree somewhat, neither agree nor disagree, disagree somewhat, disagree strongly, etc. Okay? So what you're going to do right now is you're going to look through this survey and find a few variables that you want to use. Now you can try to find ones that are related to your topic. You can just find ones that are interested in anything that you might that are related to anything you might be interested in, right? There's a search function here that you can use, but I recommend actually just doing Control F, or if you're using a Mac, it would be Command F, to look for different words that you might want to look at variables on. So I know a few of you are doing your research on different aspects of the LGBTQ community. In this survey, they use the word homosexual, not LGBT. So if we search for homosexual, you'll see that there's 7 instances. Okay, so there's a question about gay marriage, there's questions about sexual orientation, questions about if you think that a person who is gay should be able to speak freely in the community or work at a college. Yeah, some of these, this reflects the general American opinions on things. So these questions might seem extremely outdated, but this is from 2016. Okay, so another topic could be abortion. Okay, so there's several questions about how people feel about abortions and whether they should be illegal or legal and under what circumstances, if they are affecting the mother's health or if the family can't afford the child. Let's see, what else? There's lots of questions on health. There are definitely some questions on mental health. Here's a question on mental health right here. So, be creative. It doesn't need to relate to your final topic. You need to find 6 different variables, 2 at each level: nominal, ordinal, and interval ratio. And you have to submit those definitely by Tuesday night, because I need to let you know on Wednesday of next week if those variables are correct, because if not, you're going to need to find new variables for the data set that you're going to be working with. So after I hear from you, I will make you an individual data set with the specific variables that you asked for, and that you'll be able to use for the next 2 weeks to complete your statistics assignment for this class. Okay, so make sure you're looking for your 6 variables and also working on your poster this week. If you want to send me an email before you submit your statistics part 1 assignment to double check that you have selected variables at the correct levels, that's totally fine. You can just send me a quick email to do that. Okay, have a great week.